About a month ago, I made a video about 30 things you wouldn't know if you didn't read the Hunger Games books, and you guys seemed to like it, so I thought, why not make a part 2? Especially with all of the Hunger Games hype around the release of the new book and movie coming out soon. In this video, we're gonna go over 30 more things that the films left out when adapting the books to the big screen. Link down below is part 1 of this series if you want to check it out, and it should be in a playlist. Also, make sure you stay till the end of the video, because I saved 2 of the most interesting points for last. Number 1. Plutarch's pocket watch. Plutarch showed Katniss his pocket watch when he first met her, and it bore the Mockingjay logo on it. He showed her this to hint that he was part of the rebellion, and showing her this clock was Plutarch's way of telling her that the arena he created was also a clock. I feel like movie fans really missed out on an important part of Plutarch's character when the film cut this out. Number 2. Gale's family. Gale was shown heavily in the films, but one thing the filmmakers left out was Gale's entire family. He was the oldest of 4, having 3 younger siblings, Rory, Vic, and the only girl, Posey. Gale becomes the main provider for his family after their father was killed in the same mining accident that killed Katniss's father. That's also one of the reasons why Gale and Katniss are so close. They both lost their fathers at the same time in the same accident. With his father gone, Gale steps up and he does anything he can to make sure his family is well fed and taken care of, even putting his name in for the reaping more than pretty much anybody else in District 12. And going off of that, we come to number 3, Tesserae or Tessera. As I just said, Gale put his name in for the reaping more than almost anyone in 12, and the reason he did this was because of the promise of Tessera. If a family is struggling for food, children eligible for the games can put their names in for the reaping more than once, and each time you add your name, you get a year's supply of grain and oil for one person. Gale, who was 18 during the reaping in the first book, had his name in there 42 times. That's wild. Number 4. Katniss, Peeta, and Haymitch's training. The film cut out how much went on in between the announcement of the third quarter quell and the reaping. For several weeks before the reaping, the 3 prepared for the games like the careers would. They did daily exercises in the morning, combat training in the afternoon, and at night they watched all of the Hunger Games footage for the victors they might face in the arena. Number 5. Arachne's funeral. Movie fans saw Arachne be killed in the prequel film, but they never saw what happened after her death. In the book, it was broadcast on TV, and Coriolanus was asked to sing the anthem, giving him even more attention than he had before. This was of course very good for him as a mentor, and also as tribute Lucy Gray. The president of Panem himself came and spoke at Arachne's funeral, saying that she died valiantly, which as we saw in the movie was not true. To make this display even worse, they hoisted Brandy, the tribute that had killed Arachne, high in the air by a crane, showing off her bullet-ridden body. Pretty messed up. Number 6. Haymitch's actions at the 74th Hunger Games reaping. The first time viewers of the films meet Haymitch is on the train, but those who read the book know about his introduction that was so much worse. He was on the stage with Effie, Katniss, and Peeta, and there he told Katniss that she had spunk for volunteering in her sister's place. He then drunkenly fell off the stage, knocked himself out, and had to be taken away on a stretcher. Not a great first impression. Number 7. Pluribus Bell. This is a character that movie fans never met, but he was one of the standout characters for book readers simply because of his loyalty and kindness to Coriolanus Snow and his family. He was the only person truly aware of the Snow's family poverty, and not only did he keep this a secret, but he didn't judge them or see them as inferior as most would have. He was also the one who provided Snow with the guitar that Lucy Gray used free of charge. Then when Snow was sent to be a peacekeeper, he wrote to him in District 12. Gotta respect that loyalty. Number 8. Lavinia. I talked about Darius in the last video, the Avox who got maybe the worst death in the entire series, and that's saying something. However, I left out Lavinia, another Avox in the series, who movie fans could actually see in the background of some scenes. The backstory behind this is that Katniss saw Lavinia and a boy running in the woods, and when a capital ship came over them, they killed the boy and captured Lavinia, who made eye contact with Katniss while being brought up to the hovercraft. As punishment for running, she got her tongue cut out and became a servant for the capital. She ended up serving Katniss before the games, and Katniss immediately recognized her, though at the time she didn't know from where. When Katniss did realize, it was when Lavinia came into her room and she let Katniss know that it wasn't her fault, something that was a struggle to do considering Lavinia couldn't talk. Eventually though, Lavinia was taken hostage and she was killed by electrocution alongside Darius. Number 9. Haymitch's conclusion. Haymitch was cut out of the final few scenes in the series, meaning movie fans never knew where he ultimately ended up. He too resided in District 12 following the war, and he interacted with his former mentees on a regular basis. Haymitch also got a hobby of raising a flock of geese, which is just the most Haymitch thing I've ever heard. Number 10. Gale and Beetee designed the bombs that killed Prim. Movie fans might not know how corrupted Gale got because they cut out perhaps the worst thing he ever did. Beetee and Gale created a weapon that manipulated those with compassion. The concept was to send a bomb down, and when people ran in to save the victims, the bomb would go off a second time, killing those that tried to help. When this was presented to Katniss in 13, she immediately said that she was against it, but this didn't stop the two from sending this project forward. This bomb was of course used in the Capitol, which killed many children, and then it killed Prim, who was one of the compassionate people that the creators of the bomb preyed on. Later on, when Katniss asked Gale about the bomb, he told her that nothing he had to say would make her feel better. Movie fans, if you loved Gale, that's a tough pill to swallow. Number 11. Snow and Lucy Gray kiss before the Hunger Games. In the prequel film, movie fans didn't see Coriolanus and Lucy Gray kiss until well after the 10th Hunger Games, kissing when Snow had been sent to District 12 as a peacekeeper. But those that read the book know that they actually kissed for the first time before Lucy Gray went into the arena. I don't know why they didn't add this in the film, because they were literally face to face as if they were about to kiss, but they just didn't do it. Number 12. Peeta and Katniss's rewards. Movie fans saw the way Katniss and Peeta won the games in a controversial way, but what movie fans don't know is that they did not get the same rewards that victors before them did. The only thing they got was a home in Victor's village, while other victors got a lavish home as well as many other things, such as a generous annual stipend to make them somewhat wealthy, especially compared to those in the districts. Plus, they got various privileges that average citizens in the districts would not get, not to mention many connections with people in the capital. Katniss and Peeta had angered the capital so much that outside of their homes that were pretty much already built and there for them, they didn't get any of these added benefits for winning. Number 13. The second Quarter Quell Hunger Games Arena. In the first part of the series, I went over how movie fans wouldn't know about Haymitch's Hunger Games, but what I didn't go over was how unique the arena he went into was. When you first look at it, it's the most breathtaking place imaginable. It had a sweet-smelling green meadow, beautiful flowers, a perfect blue sky, and was filled with wonderful creatures. However, everything that looked beautiful and perfect was severely deadly. The plants, the water, and even the smell of the flowers were all deadly poisonous. On top of that, all of the innocent looking animals were vicious, taking the life of several different tributes. I'm curious if we're going to see this arena come to life in the new book and movie, because it does take place in this time period. Number 14. Strabo Plinth. Movie fans barely saw the Plinth family outside of Sejanus. There were just little shots of Strabo here and there, but book fans know that there's a lot more to his character than the book showed. The movie left out why he and his family were able to leave the districts and live in the capital. Strabo made a fortune selling munitions to the capital, which they used against the districts during the First Rebellion and the Dark Days. This helped the capital win the war, as Strabo had turned on his fellow district citizens, aligning himself with President Ravenstill. With that, and also donating a portion of his wealth to the capital, they allowed him and his family to not only become capital citizens, but be at the top of the capital, enjoying privileges that even the oldest and most powerful families did not have. Number 15. Peeta's father came to visit Katniss before the 74th Hunger Games. Movie fans only saw Katniss be visited by her mother, sister, and Gale, but in the book there were others as well, one of which was Peeta's father. He brought her some cookies to calm her nerves, and he told Katniss that he would ensure Prim and her mother were fed and taken care of. This might have been partially due to Mr. Malark wanting to marry Katniss's mother when they were young, another thing that movie fans wouldn't know. So there you go, a bonus one. Number 16. What Tigris had to do to keep her family alive. Those who have only seen the films honestly didn't see a lot of Tigress. One of the biggest things for her that was left out, or maybe not the biggest, but the most shocking, is the fact that she had to sell her body to survive under the harsh conditions during the war. This was truly disturbing considering how young she was. But this wouldn't be the first time we saw this happen in the series, because this of course happened to Finnick. However, Tigress's case was a little bit different because she wasn't forced into this position like Finnick was. She actively chose to do it, which shows how desperate she and her family was. Number 17. Katniss got locked out of District 12. The films cut one of my favorite moments in the book, which was Katniss having to find a way back into District 12 while the fence she normally just walked through was now electrified. She ends up having to climb a tree and make a large jump to narrowly avoid the fence. While she avoided getting electrocuted, she messed up her heel pretty badly with the landing. Katniss then comes to the conclusion that this is Snow just messing with her. She noted that he had found out about her kissing Gale, which in the book happened in the forest, not in District 12 like the movie was. So Katniss comes to the conclusion that he must have seen Katniss going through the fence and said, haha, I got you. Number 18. How bad Mrs. Everdene's depression was. Movie fans didn't see much of Mrs. Everdene, and what they did see, they saw that she was a pretty good mother. However, in the books, this was not the case. She became severely depressed following the loss of her husband. It got so bad that she pretty much just checked out, giving up on being a mother and basically life in general. This led to her neglecting her then 11 and 7-year-old daughters, making them fend for themselves on pretty much every aspect of life, plus have the added responsibility of taking care of their own mother. Number 19. Humanizing the Peacekeepers. In the movies, Peacekeepers were mostly just faceless law enforcers, and other than Romulus Thread, we didn't know a single one of them. In the books, Katniss frequently interacted with the Peacekeeper Darius, who she joked around with from time to time. He allowed her to hunt in the woods as well as trade in the Hob, despite the fact that it was illegal. He also tried to protect Gale during his whipping, but he was knocked out, captured, and as I said earlier in the video, got probably the worst death in the entire series. There's also the Peacekeeper Pernia, and she too turned a blind eye to Katniss and Gale's hunting and trading, and she too stepped in during Gale's whipping, lying to Thread saying that it was Gale's first offense, which was not true at all, and this lessened the amount of lashes Gale was dealt. Then there's Cray, the head Peacekeeper of 12, and he's not as nice as the others. We saw him for a brief second in the movie, but we hardly knew anything about him. He took money from young women in exchange for sexual relations, and horrifyingly, he always had women gathered at his door hoping to give themselves up to feed their families, much like Tigress did years before this. Number 20. Where Lucy Gray got her dress. Lucy Gray's rainbow ruffled dress was an absolute hit both to the characters in Panem and in real life with the release of the film. Did you know that you can literally buy this dress online? The price for it is outrageous, but apparently they're selling because there's only one left in stock. So if you want it, you better act fast. While movie fans fell in love with this dress, they never learned the origin of where Lucy Gray got it. It actually belonged to her mother, and Lucy Gray kept it after her mother's brutal head wound that took her life, courtesy of the Peacekeepers. Number 21. How important Peeta giving Katniss the bread was. Fans of the film actually did see a glimpse of the scene, but it was very brief and it doesn't really go into how monumental this moment really was. This was fresh off of Mr. Everdene dying, and as I said earlier in the video, Katniss had to step up when her mother fell into the depression. She tried to ration their food, making sure it would last for a long time, but eventually they ran out. Katniss tried all she could to get more money for food, but to no avail. Katniss was starved and literally on the brink of death, which the movie did not fully convey. With her last bit of strength, she tried to get some scraps outside of the Malark's bakery, but Mrs. Malark chased her away. As she was leaving, Katniss collapsed to the ground from starvation and exhaustion. When Peeta saw this, he knew he had to do something, so he purposely burnt 2 loaves of bread, which led to him getting slapped in the face. Then, when his mother wasn't looking, he threw them to Katniss, saving both Katniss and her family's lives. With all of this context that the films didn't convey, it makes this moment so much more monumental. Number 22. Katniss worked under Cinna. Cinna, played by Lenny Kravitz, was a fan favorite for film watchers, but they missed out on a great moment for his character. When a victor is crowned the winner of the Hunger Games, they are expected to take on a hobby when they return home. Katniss didn't want to do this, so Cinna made everyone believe that Katniss was helping him in designing dresses, when really, he was doing all of the work. The two did stay in contact after the 74th Hunger Games though, talking on the phone with one another, which really helped Katniss following the games. Number 23. Deli Cartwright. This was something that the movies actually changed. The film switched out Deli Cartwright for Prim when they went to talk to a hijacked Peeta. In the book, Deli was a childhood friend of Peeta's, and because she had no connection to Katniss, they thought it would be a good idea for him to visit him after his mind had been fully hijacked. And this makes much more sense than sending Prim in there, because she immediately reminded Peeta of Katniss, leading to him freaking out. With Deli, he was calm and actually listened to her as she listed some of the good things that Katniss did. It wasn't until she told him that his family died in the bombing of District 12 that he lost it. Number 24. Coin's death was live streamed. One of the craziest moments in both the books and the films was Katniss killing Alma Coin instead of Coriolanus Snow. But one thing the film left out was that this was broadcast to all of Panem, meaning every member of the capital and the districts watched this happen, making this moment even more crazy. Number 25. How Plutarch saved Katniss. With the unfortunate passing of Philip Seymour Hoffman, they were unable to wrap his story up in the films. In the book, after Katniss killed the literal president of the country, there were a lot of people who wanted to see her punished. Plutarch, however, went to Katniss's trial in place of her, and he pleaded that she was a borderline insane warrior who had been punished enough. He then arranged for her to go to District 12, and when he picked her up, Plutarch smiled at her, looking very happy with what he had pulled off. He told Katniss that he had ensured that she would walk away freely, and said that with his new position in power, he would make sure the people of Panem forgave and forgot Katniss's crimes. Number 26. The lack of Effie trinket in the Mockingjay. Movie fans saw Effie be a huge part in helping Katniss become a sign of the rebellion while in District 13. However, in the novel, she went missing after the 75th Hunger Games. Many thought that she was dead, and she was absent from pretty much the whole book, everyone believing that she was just gone. However, when it came time for Snow's execution, the truth came out. It turned out she had been kidnapped and held prisoner by President Coin. Effie was released only to help Katniss get ready for the big event and execution. Luckily, Plutarch and Haymitch had spent the whole book convincing Coin to keep Effie alive. Man, Plutarch's just out here saving everybody. Number 27. What happened to Peeta's prep team? In the last video of the series, I talked about how Katniss's prep team was imprisoned in District 13. However, I didn't go over what happened to Peeta's prep team. Portia, who was a more significant character in the book, was the equivalent of Cinna, but for Peeta. Following the third quarter quell, she and her entire team were captured, but unlike Katniss's prep team, they did not make it out with their lives. They were publicly executed, which was broadcast on live TV to all of Panem. Man, sometimes I forget how brutal this series is, and it always comes up when I make videos like this. Number 28. Annie Cresta's messed up mind. Movie fans know Annie pretty well, as they got to see her be reunited with Finnick and they saw her wedding. However, she had a backstory that was hardly touched upon in the films. During her games, she witnessed the other District 4 tribute get beheaded right in front of her, blood splattering all over her face and body. When she came home, she suffered from severe PTSD and mental instability. She would oftentimes cover her ears and just scream at the top of her lungs. She also laughed at unusual times during social situations, her PTSD making her forget how to be a normal person. And if that wasn't enough, she would oftentimes fall into a daze that could last for hours. The only person that could calm her down was Finnick. And though he was pursued by too many women to count, he didn't want anyone except Annie, despite her mental instability. That's a fact that will probably make movie watchers love Finnick even more. Number 29. The former cities of the United States. One of the most interesting parts of the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes for me was the mention of what used to be North America. Sometimes he stared out the windows at the dead cities they passed, now abandoned to the elements, and wondered what the world had been like when they'd all been in their glory. back when this had all been North America, not Panem. It must have been fine, a land full of capitals. Such a waste. This was the first time that Suzanne Collins had actually officially confirmed that Panem was formerly America. It had been hinted to, especially in Mockingjay, but it was never specifically stated until now. This was something I really latched onto when reading the prequel novel, and it was something that I thought movie fans had to know. And finally, number 30. District 13 betrayed the other districts. The movie covered District 3's arsenal, how they went underground, and how they had been biding their time to strike against the capital. However, the movies failed to explain how District 13 had made a deal with the capital to end the war. District 13 went to the capital with an ultimatum. They pointed every nuclear weapon that they had at the capital city and said that they would not hesitate to destroy them, and this led to a ceasefire between the two. Behind the back of the other districts, 13 ensured their own freedom. They made a deal which included allowing District 13 to be separate from Panem, free of the capital's rule, and would avoid any punishment the other districts got. In return, District 13 would stop pointing their bombs at the capital city, would withdraw from the war, which was huge because they supplied the rebels with all of the bombs they were using, and finally, 13 said that the capital could use them as an example, bombing their district while they were underground. As we saw in the film, the capital filmed this, using it as a warning to the other districts. With the betrayal of District 13, the districts lost, and their punishment was the Hunger Games, which District 13 was exempt from. And that's 30 more things that you wouldn't know if you didn't read the Hunger Games books. Comment below and let me know if you can think of any more examples. That's all I have for you guys today though, so I will see you in the next video.